Hello everyone and welcome. You join me outside the front entrance to our Chateau Clerbaud. Thank you for joining us in another one of our video blogs all about our restoration of this beautiful chateau. So come on inside and let's have a look at what we've been doing. Welcome to the banqueting hall inside Chateau Clerbaud. This chateau is 800 to 900 years old. It has stood here for hundreds of years, defying time itself. When it was first built, inside toilets hadn't even been considered or thought of. When it was last occupied, about 25 years ago, there were only about 4 bathrooms here. They emptied out into cesspits or even directly into the ground. We are planning to put in 14 ensuite bathrooms. That's going to be very interesting, how we can find a way to cram 14 bathrooms into this old building with its stone walls, in some places over 1 metre thick. Actually putting the bathrooms in is not the hard bit. It's getting the water and the waste out. That's the tricky bit that needs a lot of thought. So please join me now and have a look just how we managed to put these bathrooms in. This story will be in 2 parts. The first part you're now going to watch, and hopefully you will enjoy it enough to join us for part 2, which will be released in 5 or 6 days' time. Enjoy. Thank you. Chateau Clerbaud, sitting in the beautiful Parc des Clerbaudières, approaching 900 years old when we bought it. There was no water supply into the chateau and no modern drainage or waste system. How will we overcome these problems and fit 14 bathrooms into this beautiful building? Let's take a look at some of the work we've done to achieve this. As you can see, the first room is relatively modern. It must have been renovated sometime within the last 50-60 years. The first job was to take out the modern floor tiles and get rid of the ugly brick fireplace and the wooden panelling around it. Having revealed remnants of a much older fireplace, we then started to dig out the floor. This was where we hit our first problems. Underneath the floor level, we encountered massive great big lumps of stone. I am not sure if they were just there naturally or they had been put there at some point as some kind of a foundation. Whichever, it took us a long time to get these out. Once the floor had been dug out, the next step was to put in the waste pipes. These waste pipes would serve not only this apartment with 2 bathrooms and a kitchenette, but also the apartment above with 2 bathrooms and another kitchenette. Planning how to get all of the waste and drainage pipes out of the chateau was really quite a headache. Unlike pressured water pipes and electric cables, you can't just run them up and down. They have to more or less come straight down. So this really limits you as to where you can put them. We were very fortunate to have the expert talents of our plumber Thomas, who had planned and designed everything for us. Once all the drainage was in, we covered it with sand to protect it when we put the concrete floor on top. However, before we put the concrete floor down, we had to test the system to pressurize it and make sure that there weren't any leaks. All went well, no leaks, so then it was time to put the concrete floor down. Once the concrete had hardened, Thomas could then install all of the water pipes for the shower and the wash basin. These would be hidden behind a false wall and covered with waterproof plasterboard. The problem with both of these bathrooms was that the rooms we wanted to create the bathrooms in both had very low ceilings, less than 6 feet. What we decided to do was to remove the ceiling of the lower bathroom and increase the height by putting in a false ceiling, and then in the room above, increase the height of that ceiling even more. In this way, we would end up with 2 bathrooms with a good height. You can see here that in the upper bathroom, we have gone up at least 1 metre into the attic space above it. As you can see, all of the water pipes were concealed behind the false walls, which were then covered in waterproof plasterboard. The new ceiling was insulated and then covered in fireproof plasterboard. What a great transformation. All new wiring and plumbing. The plan is to put wooden panelling around the lower part of the walls. At the back of the chateau, there are two medieval towers. Each of these towers will have a bathroom on the first floor and on the second floor. The walls of these towers are more than 1 metre thick, so let's see how we put all of the plumbing in here. Firstly, we had to work our way through several layers of flooring, the first being some sort of vinyl covering. That was followed by old Tomet tiling, and underneath these we found some oak planks sitting on top of oak beams. We could then break through to the room below so that Thomas could get on with installing all of the pipes and drainage.
It can't be all done on the table. It has to be done up in the space.
You will see that we are using a very special kind of plumbing pipe. It is polypropylene. Thomas is fusing the pipes together with a non-flammable heat source. This process makes the join even stronger than the actual manufactured pipe, meaning it will be totally leak-free. It has many advantages over other types of plumbing pipes. It is corrosion-proof and it resists scaling, and it is also a natural insulator. We are also using very special waste down pipes. They are soundproofed, so you won't hear the gushing water as it goes down between the floors. All of these materials are manufactured in Germany. This little alcove is not original to the tower. It was probably added on in the 15 or 1600s. It was almost certainly some form of a toilet. We are going to continue using it as a toilet. Apparently, this little shelf cut into the stone would have once held a bowl full of water in which you could wash your hands. Another very interesting feature in this bathroom is to be found above the fireplace. It is a carved head with a scallop shell on top of it. The scallop shell is the heraldic symbol of the de Graham family. They owned the chateau in the early 1500s and again throughout the 1700s. The carving is certainly not 1500s, much more likely to be the 1700s. The de Graham family spent a lot of money on the chateau when they were here. I take this carved head to actually be Gabriel de Graham, who did a lot of these renovations. So we are looking at the face of one of the lords of the chateau from nearly 300 years ago. This polypropylene pipe system is much better than standard forms of plumbing pipes. It's much faster to assemble, and the pipes themselves are much lighter, making them much easier to handle. They are of course a bit more expensive than normal standard pipes, but we are trying to do everything in the chateau absolutely first class, top quality. This very large bathroom will be the ensuite to our signature suite. It will have a large double shower, a roll-top bath, bidet wash basin and a toilet. The pipes that are being set into the ceiling are from the bathroom above. Of course, it's not only doing the plumbing inside the chateau. We also have to bring the water in from the main supply on the street, because the chateau only had a very small pipe. It brought the water in, and we need a much bigger one. Then of course we have to get the waste out. Previously there were cesspits, but now we have to connect to the main drainage in the village. So we have to run pipes for the waste going out and the water supply coming in about 130 metres from the chateau up to the main road. A local farmer helped us dig the trench all the way from the road back to the chateau. Then we had to put in the 63mm pipes for the water and for the waste. We are also installing high-speed internet cable down to the chateau. Once all of the pipes were installed, we covered them with sand and then filled in the trench with earth. The mains water supply pipe continues around the side of the chateau and into what will become the services room. Then we had to get the water company out to connect the new pipe into the mains drainage. They were very efficient and I don't think particularly expensive either. I was very impressed with their work. They also fitted a new modern water meter and stopcock, which is very handy because the old stopcock you could hardly turn it if you had to turn the water off. And finally they installed a big new fire hydrant, which would be really useful as we hopefully now won't have to put a great big water balloon on the site in case of fire. Let's now turn to where we're going to put the public toilets, which will be on the ground floor of one of the big towers at the rear of the chateau. This tower dates back to the 11 or 1200s, so it is very, very old and very, very solid. The first job was to remove all of the old tomet tiles from the floor.
They're all coming out okay, aren't they?
Some of them are harder, some of them along here were quite hard, some of them here, bits there, but they're not too bad.
We are doing this very carefully and keeping them because we want to reuse them in other parts of the chateau. The next job was to dig out the foundation for the waste pipes. This was going to be very hard work. The waste pipe will exit the tower underneath this window. It will then enter the sewer pipe that will run along the back of the chateau and into what we call a wet well. From the wet well, the waste is all pumped up to the mains drainage on the main road. This room will be divided into two. There will be 3 cubicles for the ladies and 1 cubicle plus a urinal for the men. And they will be accessed from the reception in the chateau. In this picture, you can clearly see the amazing foundations for this tower. Imagine, these foundations are 800 to 900 years old. And then in the middle of the tower is all the backfill of the rubble on top of which they made the floor. Now it's time for Thomas to start getting all of the pipework and the drainage in. Above these toilets there will be a bathroom, so he will be putting in all of the pipes and waste for that bathroom. They will be fixed to the ceiling of these toilets, and later on we will put a false ceiling in to hide all of this pipework. In the west side of the chateau there will be 3 ensuite bathrooms, and the waste for all of these bathrooms will also exit through this piping. This is the floor above where 2 of these bathrooms will be. Here you can see that we have again had to take up tomets, and we've also had to lift floorboards to run the pipes between the joists. We got very lucky with the direction in which the joists ran. We didn't have to cut any out. Here you can see a much more recent floor placed on top of a very old floor. This plan of the chateau shows the positions of the 5 water heaters that will serve the 5 different zones of the chateau. The utilities control room is in the top left of the plan. We have to run a water pipe from the control room the whole length of the chateau, and branching out from it to each of the individual water heaters. Most of this pipe will run through the attic of the chateau. Now let's take a look at how we installed this pipe. The first section of this water pipe has already been installed in the main attic area.
you will see how it's running along high up in the roof, all along this area of the chateau. This is the bit that I put in yesterday, all secured up there. And then a little bit later we have to climb up into there and carry the pipe on to the other end of the chateau. The pipe itself is 32 millimeters black plastic, and the idea is to run it pretty much the whole way, making the minimum number of intersections in it where we branch off to each zone. Less chance of any leaks this way. As you can see, it has a red insulation that we've put around it. Being cold water, of course, it's not that we're trying to keep the heat into the water, we're trying to stop any condensation that forms on the black pipe from dripping out into the roof area, onto any ceilings or anything like that. So now I'm going to get on and continue fixing the pipe onto the beams. So what we're doing is screwing these into oak beams, which are quite old and very tough. But this should hold it all in place very nicely, because we don't want the pipe flapping around when the water pressure is in it. Quite a easy, simple process. All of this is obviously going to be having a dry wall put here. This will be insulated. These beams won't be showing, so the pipe's going to be hidden behind all of that. Cobwebs everywhere, nice and dirty up here. Yesterday when I was fitting the pipe up in the very top of the loft, in the roof space up there, it was really hot up there. Now I've made a split in the pipe, not in the pipe, but in the insulation. I need to cover that. The gaffer tape should do the trick nicely. I split it now. Just that. I say this is purely to stop any condensation that forms dripping out. Right, there we go. And where the pipe is going to fit under the windows obviously are going to remain here, but we'll have to box this lower section in, windowsill going in here, so hopefully shouldn't be too difficult to hide the pipes here. Next one going in. Nice thing with this system is it tightens up as you screw it in, so it really holds the pipe quite firmly in place. I think the electric screwdriver is losing a bit of power and needs another battery in a minute. So that's that part of the pipe all fitted in, running along the beams here. As I say, this is all going to be enclosed with another false wall. This little area here, this is where the boilers are going to be for this area of the chateau. There's going to be 2 boilers in here, and they will be enclosed. This whole area here will be separated from this other part of the loft here. So there'll be a double firewall creating a little space where the boilers sit. What we'll then have to do is put a right angle connection in the pipe here and bring it across here, but that can wait until we've got the firewalls installed across here. So what we need to do now is get up into the loft space right up there in that little opening. You can see where the pipe is going into there. So I need to get some light in there, then I need to get up into there. The way we get up into there is we come through this old part of the chateau, which will be stage 2 of the renovations. Just ahead you can see one of the rooms that's nearly finished. Then we have to go up the lovely old stone staircase. Right up here. Now we are in the very, very top of the chateau. Wander through here. Cross through here to this little doorway that's been added probably a few hundred years ago into this really small, normally dark and very dirty space under here. And now this is where we find ourselves, where the pipe comes in. And I can tell you it's really hot up here, really, really hot, so I'm going to try and get this done as quick as I can. Same procedure, we're just going to fix a pipe along these beams here, and then eventually it's actually going to go down through that hole there, which takes us into one of the towers. Now I have to fit a right angle junction to bring the pipe around the corner, and then we're going to take it across that way, wiggle around a little bit and take it to one of the boilers. These are just compression joints, so it should go on hopefully quite easily. just tighten that up onto there. And we have a little tool that will tighten it even more. Let's see where we want it to be. It should be about there, I guess. There we go, that's really quite nice and tight. That's going to go on there. Now we need to put another piece of pipe into here. So put this piece into here. Put the locking piece on. That's on. Locking piece up. Do that again. Secure. Right, slide on insulation. Forget to put this on. Nice and simple. Now we can start fixing this one to the wall. Nice and tight, very good. Pleased with that.
is the attic section finished now. The next bit will be connecting this pipe to one of the boilers, but we'll look at that in part 2 of this video blog. If you have enjoyed watching this video, why not click on the subscribe button that has just appeared. Also, check out our Patreon page in the link below. On there, you will find other ways in which you can help and support us in our project. It really does mean a great deal to us that you are interested in Chateau Clerbaud and preserving its wonderful history. Thank you.